Lebanon's foreign minister has resigned. Nassif Hitti says he couldn't continue because of the government's poor performance. Lebanon is close to bankruptcy, and politicians accused of running the economy into the ground have shown no willingness to fight corruption to receive a bailout from the International Monetary Fund. Zainahara has more from the capital, Beirut.
The foreign minister's resignation is being seen as a blow to Prime Minister Hassan Diab and his government. He's been trying really to gain credibility and legitimacy at home and abroad since taking office in January, but he has largely failed to do so. The Prime Minister made many promises, like to fight corruption, to fix the economic situation. Nothing has changed. In fact, the situation is only getting worse. And now criticism from within his own government. The foreign minister saying that Lebanon is becoming a failed state. He's accusing those in power of not having a vision, saying that they are not carrying out the reforms that are needed to be able to be eligible for much needed international financial assistance. In fact, talks with the International Monetary Fund to bail out the economy are now on hold, and the statistics really are staggering. More and more people are losing jobs, businesses are closing. In fact, an aid agency recently said that 500,000 children are growing hungry just in the Beirut area alone. So the situation is worsening. The foreign minister saying that the government has done nothing, and really raising the alarm, saying that the ship is sinking, and if it is not saved, everyone will drown, in a clear reference that the government itself and those who hold power, who want to maintain power, they too will drown if no solution is found.
Protests have been ongoing in Lebanon since last year. The unrest eventually led to Prime Minister Saad Hariri's resignation. Then a new cabinet was formed in January, headed by current Prime Minister Hassan Diab. But since then, he's been tasked with reversing the worst economic downturn in decades. Non-governmental organisations say at least 80,000 people have lost their jobs in recent months. That brings the total number of unemployed to 430,000, or 32% of the workforce. There's concern that up to 1 in every 5 Lebanese people could be jobless before the end of this year. Well, Patrick Mardini is president of the Lebanese Institute for Market Studies. He joins us from Beirut. Thank you for your time. So we've been saying in our earlier reporting, Lebanon is close to bankruptcy. Can you just explain to our viewers what that means? What happens if the country becomes bankrupt?
The Lebanese government have been spending money relentlessly for the past 20 or even 30 years. And this money the government did not have. They were borrowing it from the Lebanese banks, which ultimately means that they were borrowing it from the Lebanese population, those depositors at the Lebanese bank, right? So debt have been mounting up. We've got to an increasing, a very high level, one of the highest debt to GDP levels in the world. And the government had no means to pay the debt back because the money that they borrowed was mostly spent on useless projects and with a lot of corruption suspicions that go around those projects, right? So depositors' money have been wasted. Government cannot pay it back, and that's why we currently have a government default. The government actually announced that they will stop paying back their debt the time they figure out what to do. And here we are in one of the harshest economic recession that the country have ever seen. I mean, even the wartime was not that hard on the Lebanese population. As you just mentioned in your report, unemployment is massive. Companies are closing down. People are unable to withdraw their life saving from the bank because basically this money has been spent by the government a long time ago and it's not available anymore. So people lost their jobs, they lost their income, they also lost their life saving. And at the same time, Lebanon is suffering from a hyperinflation. So they don't have money and prices are increasing in a very crazy way. And that's the situation today.
OK, so there's been a lot of talk about getting these reforms through, these government reforms through to unlock international monetary assistance. What's the problem? Why aren't these reforms getting through?
Yes, So the Lebanese government this year, right, by May, basically, the total income of the government was 4.8 trillion Lebanese pound, and the spending was 7.9 trillion. So we have a deficit of 3.1 trillion Lebanese pound. This means that the government is spending much more than their actual income. Traditionally, they used to borrow this money from Lebanese bank and from the international community, but now, since we are in a default, nobody would lend us the money anymore, which means that the government needs to do structural reforms, meaning they need to cut their spending on useless projects, right? Today, the Lebanese government is renting some electricity power barges. We are paying the rent, but they are not really producing any more electricity. I think they should go back home. There are a lot of reforms to be done in electricity, in water, in telecom, and especially in the number of public sector employees, which was a source of clientelistic and the political hiring and nepotism, basically. And you need a cleanup. Those are the real structural reforms that the Lebanese government should be doing. Those reforms would unfreeze international support to Lebanon. Everybody's saying, guys, we need to help you, but you need to start by helping yourself. Just cut those excessive spending that you do every year and that caused you the real mess at the first place. And we were expecting the current government to do that. Unfortunately, the government have been wasting time. No serious reform have been done so far.
And now they've lost their foreign minister. Thank you for that, Patrick Mardini, there, president of the Lebanese Institute for Market Studies.